So I have just finished my first meeting with my lecturer for my dissertation subject for my Masters of Environmental Management and Sustainability. And this dissertation, which if you don't know is the word used to describe our research subject, our key research subject for the course, is based in a social sciences school. It's non-compulsory for my course, but I have chosen it to bring the worlds together of my art therapy and creative freelancing with this newly acquired climate resilience knowledge. And I am very excited about how the meeting went. So the key question I had was whether or not this research subject, which I honestly had no idea about researching at all until well after I started my master's. I've come to learn that it's actually something that I really enjoy, and I'm considering taking my passion into a PhD format. So I was really curious to ask my lecturer about whether or not it's a good space in this research subject to experiment, or whether I should play it safe, keep it traditional, and take less risks, knowing that what I would be creating in this subject would serve as a significant part of the folio for if I did pursue a PhD, but also for being able to communicate everything that I've learned and my passions, and how that maybe translates to employment as well. So knowing that I want to be pursuing the topic of how creativity strengthens climate resilience for many years to come, I am needing to size down the scope of this topic, which includes everything from nourishing our communities and bettering our climate communication to supporting cross-cultural collaboration and shared language and innovating environmental planning. I have to bring all of this down into something that can be researched in 4 weeks and then written up in another, I think, 4 to 6 weeks. It does need to be a minimum of 8,000 words, which I've never done before, but I'm not feeling too threatened by. The stressful thing is more so choosing what my topic is. So I have 3 options, with the awareness that the question might evolve a little bit along the way, but I'm really invested in being able to demonstrate my skills in researching and my ability to think creatively, to innovate. And so anyway, the 3 topics that I'm trying to decide between are, the first is identifying emerging climate communication strategies. So this would be using existing research, but also interviewing industry experts in this area, from journalism to science communications to content creators to environmental filmmakers, to identify what these strategies are, and then interviewing a cohort of people probably within the 18 to 30 bracket, just because that's what I have the most easy access to in terms of doing it in a very small time frame. And interviewing these people about how they experience their strategies and what they would like to see more or less of moving forward in climate comms. I feel this would be really useful for myself, for Accountability Baby, as well as for hopefully creating something a bit more tangible in terms of industry connections and how that leads into work, which is why this choice feels very conflicting, because it feels like I'm deciding between who I want to be friends with first professionally. Do I want to, in this case, be more connected to the climate communications community, or in the case of the next one, more of the fashion industry? So the second option is how fashion, more specifically garments and adorning ourselves, rather than fashion as industry, how fashion can create climate resilience outcomes from an art therapy perspective, so from the personal nourishment and self-expression value, but also from the circularity perspective, including thrifting and upcycling and the things that are really accessible to most general people. And this would be able to include a street style photography component, which, if you've already read the intro to Accountability Baby, is something that I am really excited to be able to pursue. It's something I've been wanting to do for probably 10 years now, if not more. And yes, so this interview process would be able to be multimodal, draw on skills that I already have, and also fulfill a project desire that I've had for a long time. But I have resistance to associating my master's thesis with fashion, when I've spent a lot of my career since working in the fashion industry trying to run away from fashion, trying to hide the fact that I worked in it, and only in the last year or so kind of coming to terms with the meaning that it had and still has in my daily life, and trying to portray that through these lenses that I hold. And so it feels like important advocacy. I'm just not sure I want to affiliate it with this opportunity. So then the third option is something that feels very safe. I'm not hugely ambitious about it, but would be really maybe easier, maybe that's an assumption, and practical, which is exploring the ways that creativity can strengthen neighbourly relationships, with the recognition that in the climate disasters that might come, we might likely be at home, and the people that we live around are one of the most immediate resources and supports, and the importance of people power in those times. Yet we are very isolated. We don't want to have to socialize after working a long week. We value our privacy, other people value their privacy, and there's not a strong culture of neighbourly connections are important. But that might be to our detriment in the decades to come. So that feels really interesting, and how creativity can make that more approachable and accessible. The way that this subject is set up, it's making me feel like I need to choose by the end of this week, which is probably for the best, but at the moment I feel very conflicted. But the other very exciting part to this subject, which I would like to share as part of this week 1 check-in, I hope to do a check-in, a documentation of my process every single week, so that I can learn about my process and touch base with all my learnings along the way, but also because there's just not enough room in my day to share about these things that I'm passionate about and that I think a lot about and that I feel like are really amazing and useful. So the other thing that feels really exciting, I'm just gonna take a breath, is that in it being a space to experiment, I'm able to do arts-based research, which means that, like in the fashion example, I'm able to use creative methods as part of the research process, whether that's just about how I interview people, or if it's about creating tangible creative outcomes that are measurable and fit into this paradigm. Paradigm being how the world is perceived based on key beliefs, and we have different paradigms that perceive the world in certain ways. So that does feel exciting, knowing that will motivate me so much more to let my ambition and my intuition guide me, which is part of what I've learned makes research so exciting. But because I am dealing with institutions, I do have the awareness and also the historic experience that creativity isn't always valued in the same way as the written word in our Western knowledge-keeping norms. So there's also some reluctance there. But either way, I am very excited to be in this position. I've been anticipating this subject for a very long time, ever since I realised that research was a thing and something that was accessible to me and that I enjoyed doing. So this just feels like a very, meaningful time. And I feel very charged, I feel very motivated and ready to do this work, and to keep documenting it. If you are here, I hope to see you around again, but I'm very excited to see where this research leads me.